Smells like propaganda.
ShinRobjira.
Today we're going to be talking about the Bandai movie monster series Shin Godzilla Morphological Change set. The set features a heavy paint applications version of Kamada-kun, Shinagawa-kun, and a frozen Shin Godzilla. So up first, let's take a look at this box. We've got movie monster series Godzilla 2016 Morphological Change set. We've got an image of Shin Godzilla, Shinagawa-kun, and Kamada-kun in this very stylized look here from the movie. Here's one side of the box. Here's another side of the box. Here's the opposite side of the box with pictures of the actual figures. And look at that, it says Movie Monster Series on the lip of the box. And here is the bottom of the box, and yes, I got this from Kinokuniya Books during the whole Godzilla pop-up shop raid that was going on. And yes, I paid $127.50 for this. Ho-ho! He'll buy 3 vinyl figures for that price, but SH Monster Arts? Nah. Listen, I have my priorities in check. I know what I like and I know what I want. And yeah, I wanted to spend $127+ on 3 vinyl figures. And up first, we have the #1 pupper himself, Kamada-kun, or Shin Godzilla Form 2. And right off the bat, this is one ugly, yet vastly improved upon little spud. Compared to the original movie monster series release, we'll get to it, this version of Kamada-kun features a lot more paint, a lot more everything. Except articulation. Starting off at the dorsal fins, as you can see, we're gonna get a lot more red going on here. The combination between skin tone, red, and then maybe a little bit more of the darker skin tone is just sublime. And I feel this particular color palette really brings out the fantastical details that this figure does have. Plus, I feel it looks a little more macabre, a little more morose. Is morose a word? It is, right? Taking a look at good old Kamada-kun's head, I mean, Jesus Christ. The gills are bloodier looking. The membranes for the side of the mouth and the inside of the mouth are much bloodier looking. Instead of an off-white or gray for the eyes, we have this very cigarette-stained tannish yellow going on, with a dark gray for the pupil, which I very much dig. Inside of the mouth will be red and glossy. Not too much in terms of detail going on in here, but that's fine. The teeth are sporting some nice new paint applications as well, although it do be getting a little on the gaudy side on this side. But the gills! I was extremely partial to that of the original movie monster series' details when it came to the gills, and that's just further accentuated upon with this version. At the time, before even seeing Shin Godzilla, just seeing, well, this, and really not having too much context to go off of, yeah, it was strange, but I was totally about it. You know, Godzilla's technically always had gills, but for the most part, they mostly went unseen unless they were just eye holes in the suit. Credit where it's due. You turned eye holes into gills, and it stuck for a better part of the Showa era. Good stuff. Moving on down to the underdeveloped little chicken nugget arms that Kamada-kun sported, I still just so very impressed. I really do love how much detail is present on this figure, especially over here with these arms. Top of the hand detail on something as small as this, premium. And we've got the detail for the chest going on over here, not fully formed, but still rather pointy and in existence. And the rest of the detail on the body is just going to be further accentuated upon with this extra based paint. Seriously, it's a shame normal wide release figures don't look as good as these exclusive figures do. And while a lot of that paint won't be present on the underside of the figure, I do feel the figure gets its point across. He just looks really dang good. I do, however, wish more of this paint carried over to the tail. Granted, it doesn't need as much as this portion does, but a little bit of this paint over here just gliding across the tail would have been nice. But the most we get is just right up here. And a little bit over here too. It's nice that this little detail carries on throughout the tail. And for the most part, the tail's detail isn't really going to be anything special until we get around here. This crackling, scarish looking detail is really interesting. Extra interesting to see that it was only really present on one side. Even at the tip of the tail over here on this side, the tip feels a little more fishish. Then you get over here and you're starting to see the beginnings of something just not being right. Well, you know, coupled with the fact that this fucking thing exists. Kamada-kun and his Kamata toes, knees, and thighs. Brachel region will have some pretty nice details, and for the most part, heavy paint morphological change set version Kamada-kun is very nice, and I'm going to give it 2 solid stars in terms of paint and detail. What about articulation, you might be asking? I'm so glad you asked that. Just like the original, we will only get articulation in the legs, nothing in the head, nothing in the tail, nothing anywhere else. Now, how does this guy stack up to his original movie monster series counterpart? Well, zero contest. I mean, they are essentially the exact same figure, one just has more paint than the other. But there is a difference between the two of them, one that really confused me when I first got this set in. What is it, you might be asking? Well, it's actually the length of the tail. Granted, I think the length of the tail was likely slightly shortened just so the fact that this thing could fit in the box without any warping going on. For the most part, though, I do think it's just length. I don't think much else was changed. And again, it's really not by much. I mean, maybe the tip of the tail of the original movie monster series release looks a little different in comparison to the Morphological Change set. But I'm 2023 ShinRobjira. I'm not 2021 or 2 ShinRobjira. We're not going that deep into it. Just know the difference between these two figures are solely in paint, not in articulation or sculpt, and one came with a tag and the other came with a box. Moving on to Shinagawa-kun. As we can see, Shinagawa-kun, or Shin Godzilla Form 3, has a bit of a darker complexion to him this time around. His original movie monster series counterpart was much brighter in every way, shape, or form. But here, obviously, we have a much more laden in blood look going on here, and I really do dig that. From the very tip of his head to his gills to the side of his body and thighs and everything, we get a lot of red, and on top of this dark burgundy color, it just friggin' works. Shinagawa-kun will be sporting the same amount of paint on the eyes and teeth that Kamada-kun had, obviously just more of an update than what we got on the standard movie monster series release. A little bit more detail on the inside of the mouth, okay, maybe a lot more detail on the inside of the mouth, Jesus. And the details on the body overall, just, yeah, fantastic stuff. Once again, I'm just very partial to the little T-Rex arms going on here. Yes, they're going to be outlined with red over here on the shoulders, but I do wish there was a little bit of red on the arms. Granted, you could definitely pick them out of the crowd of everything that's going on here. Just a little bit more red would have been cooler. That's just me nitpicking. But just like Kamada-kun, the additional paint here just works wonders for this guy, especially so on his thighs and knees over here. Those would trip the phobia, I'm sorry. What I already loved with the standard released version, I actually love even more with this version. The gills are bloodier on both sides, but more importantly, the dorsal fins are starting to get that red glowy effect going on. Sure, some of the smaller ones are mostly just red, but as we get to the center row over here, you see that red glowy feature really taking hold. And again, the smaller ones are a little bit more red, but these right here, that is the money shot. That, coupled with just the fact that these things are detailed up like a dream, just works. Yeah, some of them are a little sloppy in some areas, but this wasn't exactly the cleanest version of Shin Godzilla out there. I mean, the poor guy vomited blood in that one deleted scene, so him being a little bloody, I don't know, I feel like it works. Now, just like Kamada-kun, all of this accentuating on details is going to stop right here at the tail. Yeah, we'll get a little bit of that right there, but everything moving forward, yeah, no dice, no red bloody features. Granted, the detail is still super nice, and we do get a better look at the Siamese twin up here at the tip of the tail. Goddamn, this would have looked so much better with more of that red, but for the most part, the point still stands. Fantastic detail, just lacking there of paint. The bottom portions of Shinagawa-kun's legs will also be without all of that fantastic red. Shinagawa-kun's gonna get a solid star in terms of paint and detail for me. Did I give Kamada-kun a solid star for articulation? Well, he gets one now, and so does Shinagawa-kun. Just like the original and Kamada-kun, not too much is changing in terms of articulation. It's just going to be in the legs, and I am still mystified by the knee articulation that we got. Was this the first time a movie monster series had articulation in the knees? I know we technically got knee swivels with the Bandai Godzilla Collection King Goji figure, but was this the first time it happened with the movie monster series figure? I truly can't even remember, but yeah, solid star for articulation. Now, how does this guy stack up next to his movie monster series counterpart? Honestly, I think they stack up next to one another rather well. I mean, they both basically have the same thing going on, it's just Morphological Change Shinagawa-kun has more of it against a darkened base color. While I still love extra bloody Bloodzilla over here, and believe me, I do love that, I just feel the coherent vision of the Morphological Change Set version just does it better. Again, they're the same mold, they're going to feature the same details and articulation. It's really all in paint and not much else. And unlike Kamada-kun, the tails will remain pretty much the same length. Alrighty, now it's time for the man of the hour. Frozen Shin Godzilla. Oh boy. Simplistic and absolutely based in every way possible. Bandai did Frozen Shin, I feel, a lot of justice. Just the way that it was painted up and everything. Not only does it really help pop out all of those amazing details that this mold had, it just feels like it completes the vinyl Shin Godzilla collection. I mean, from the toes, knees, shins, crotch, goochel area, titties, arms, and neck, it all just looks so Giger-esque. In some areas, though, the silver is a bit heavy-handed, really muddying about all of those details, especially over here on the shoulder, but everywhere else, it just hits. It hits, and it keeps on delivering all these years later. And I'm especially a massive fan of these dorsal fins because, yeah, that's just how it's done. The yogurty silver on the dark gray base vinyl, it just works. It really does look like a forest of nuclear death metal death trees. And of course, that only gets better once we move to the tail, which I think looks positively exceptional. We're gonna get the same amount of stuff in terms of paint. It's once we get to the tip of the tail where things get really interesting. Because yes, we have the hybrids at the tip of Shin Godzilla's tail. It was one of the main reasons why people really wanted this figure, and it took SH Monster Arts how long for that to get made? Too long. That's still one figure I really do want one day, though. Granted, the detail present on these things, it's not Tamashii Nation's level, but it still looks fantastic. And not for nothing, for $73 for 3 figures, this definitely feels worth it, and that's not just my Shin Godzilla bias obviously poking out. This just looks good. And it really only gets better the closer you look at it. I mean, you've got hybrids poking out a little bit of everywhere. And again, while not Tamashii levels of detailed, to say this isn't impressive is just being wrong. That's not an opinion, that's just a fact. The teeth, the eye socket, the opened mouth, positively visceral. Every time I look at this thing, I find something new to appreciate. And since I'm a Shin Godzilla fanboy, I find myself looking at this quite a bit. There was even a point in time where I displayed this figure tail forward, because I wanted you to look at this. Sure, areas like the eyes and teeth do take a hit. Maybe on one side they're a lot less noticeable than the other, but still, even then, he's frozen. There's still going to be details present on the inside of the mouth, as well as paint, and even if it's uneven in some areas, the overall look, feel, vibe, and reason for being is still beautifully communicated. I was really hoping for like a crystallized white translucent Shin Godzilla with gray paint on it to really communicate this, but then I took one good look at this guy and I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't care. I love it. And this is actually one of those instances where every part of the figure is painted. They didn't just leave one part to the birds. Every inch of this guy was touched with paint. Yes, even the bottom of the feet. Hell, even the bottom of the tail, too. They went all out for this thing. Positively all out. Frozen Shin Godzilla gets a solid star for paint and detail from me. Now, what about articulation? Hasn't changed a bit. Yeah, typical stuff, all the way around at the arms. Both sides, yeah, there we go. And then both of the legs. And you really don't have to worry about damaging the paint either, so that's a plus. Nothing at the base of the tail, nothing at the center of the tail, nothing at the tip of the tail. Articulation, solid star. Now, how does this guy compare to the original Movie Monster series release? It's entirely a matter of taste. I wouldn't say this figure is better than this figure, but at the same time, this figure is painted entirely while this one isn't. But they both offer 2 different versions, technically, of Shin Godzilla, and despite having the same amount of detail, one just showcases it a lot better. And plus one's got a bunch of Godzilla human hybrids sticking out of the tip of the tail and the other one doesn't. But the point still stands. is. I think they look beautiful together, and while they both offer a Shin Godzilla space on your shelf some love, the differentiation is all literally just skin deep. Or vinyl deep. I love these figures. I love this box set. Really, my only complaint is that I wish they all came with tags because I can't put a box in a top loader. Anyway, I love how the figures look. It's pretty cool that these haven't been released outside of the box set since, but I would really like to see Bandai come back to something like this. Next to the You Choose the Next Movie Monster Series voting poll, it would be cool to see like 2 to 3 movies get selected. You vote for which movie you want to see a box set for, and then you just get it at the end of the year. Mind you, this box set was only $73 starting. $73 for 3 movie Monster Series figures ain't bad. So now imagine if they did Terror of Mechagodzilla, a new 75 Goji, a new repaint of the 75 Mechagodzilla, and a new Titanosaurus. We'd basically be living in the Bandai Toys Dream Project era all over again. That's the vision I have. It's probably not going to happen, but Bandai, seriously, hire me. My apologies to the people who were really waiting for this video. This was originally supposed to be a Shin Godzilla Day release, but since all of July's offerings kind of came out at once and I was getting swamped pretty quickly, I just decided I'll do this when I have the free time. Trying not to kill myself over making videos. That's a good thing. Anyway, I have been ShinRobjira, and when next we meet, we're going back to Transformers to talk about Megatron. Legacy Megatron. I love it so much.
Did you see